Court official in Madrid says the prosecutor is recommending jail without bail for Mohamed Houli Kemalal, the first of four arrested suspects to be interrogated at Spain's National Court on the two deadly vehicle attacks in Barcelona and Cambrils. National Court spokesman said Kemalal testified today at the court for just over an hour before Judge Fernando Andreu, who will decide later whether the four should be jailed or released. The court official said Kemalal answered questions but gave no details of what the suspect said in court. Again, last week's two attacks left 15 people dead and 120 wounded. So to discuss that and the status of the investigation and what we know about this, we're joined by Dr. Alex Del Carmen, director of the School of Criminology and Criminal Justice at Tarleton State University in Fort Worth, Texas. And you can find him on Twitter at DCConsultingTX. And Dr. Del Carmen, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So what do we know about this attack? I mean, first of all, it seems like as much news coverage as it's getting, it doesn't seem to be getting the kind of wall-to-wall coverage that some other terrorist attacks have received, like say the ones in Paris and so forth.
That is true, and I think to some degree it's because we have normalized some of these attacks in the sense that we almost expect them to happen, and so most people are not surprised that it's happening in Europe, and most individuals are just really focused on how many people we lost this time around.
How does this compare to, say, the Paris attack or some of the other attacks that we've seen in the last couple of years? Is there anything unusual or different about this one?
Not really, in the sense that, this attack obviously took place by an individual using the basic elements of a vehicle against innocent bystanders. In addition to that, we know that it's ISIS inspired. We also know that the access to multiple people in a massive concentration was there also. So there are a lot of similarities about the attack. What perhaps is different is the fact that the Spanish police were able to quickly identify the individuals not only responsible for the attack, but those individuals that also supported the attack as well. And I commend them for doing that. I think that they moved rather quickly in surrounding towns to be able to corral them and bring immediate justice to them.
Of course, these lessons are particularly painful with all the tragedy and loss of life. But are we, with each of these attacks, are we learning more about how to investigate them, how to stop them, how to prevent them?
One of the things that perhaps is a common thread across all of the attacks is that we know firsthand that these individuals are not attacking us on a single cell mechanism. In other words, that there are individuals that are actually supporting them. And so the authorities across Europe, France and England, as well as Spain this time around, they quickly realized that this is a matter of not only containment, but a matter of being able to follow the thread, follow the internet connections, the social media connections to those individuals that have in fact supported, transported, perhaps created bombs or created weapons, and then of course financially supported these individuals and trained them as well. So we are getting better as these attacks continue, but of course the challenge is the anonymity that some of these individuals have, even in social media.
So in a way, I guess a key to investigating these and perhaps preventing them is follow the money.
Exactly, which is what we did right after 9/11. As you may recall, President Bush at the time, one of the first things that he did is he basically began to track down what those terrorist states were that were supporting terrorism all over the world, particularly against the United States.
Now, last night, of course, President Trump gave a speech to the American people laying out his plans for winning the war in Afghanistan. And I know it's been a long time, but that war began right after 9/11, after we had been attacked. And the purpose of it was to deny safe havens to terrorist organizations that perpetrate attacks like that. Have we succeeded to any extent in doing so? And what's your view on where things should go from here?
Well, part of the problem is that we never defined success. And when we were able to invade Afghanistan and be able to take out some of the Taliban and those individuals that supported terrorism, we thought that perhaps success was neutralizing the country, getting rid of terrorism, which is what politicians often tell us. But at the end of the day, what matters is continuing those efforts building relationships with the natives, being able to talk to the individuals that are intrinsically part of the social fabric of these countries. And then in addition to that, being able to prevent them or prevent the attacks that they would take place in the future. I'm not sure that we've achieved that in Afghanistan. I think that Afghanistan continues to be a problem. I think that the president has realized, perhaps since taking over the presidency, that this is not going to be a simple solution, that the other presidents that were before him dealt with the same reality, which is if we pull out all at once, it's going to be a problem for the rest of the world, including the United States.
Talking with Dr. Alex Del Carmen from Tarleton State University in Fort Worth, Texas, about fighting terrorism and anti-terrorism tactics for police. And in light of this tragic attack in Barcelona last week, but what have police learned about anti-terrorism tactics over the last few years or so? Have they made a great deal of progress in being able to fight this sort of thing?
You know, if you look at the evolution of how law enforcement has been preparing for these attacks, we have seen that after 9/11, it was almost as if we woke up in the United States and we realized that we are not immune from terrorism and that terrorists attack us in various ways, some of which are very simple, i.e. being able to get over, in a cockpit, fighting the flight attendants and the personnel inside the airplane and then making that plane into a missile. What we learned back then is something that has consistently been the lesson throughout the years since then, which is that terrorists are not going to attack us with a nuclear bomb. They're not going to come in this country with a dirty bomb. And I mean, they could, but we have really good technology and the best law enforcement in the world to be able to prevent that. But what we know now is that people with a motive, people that are connected through social media with these very twisted minds overseas, can in fact get inside a vehicle, which everyone has access to, and make that into a weapon, and then basically weaponize a car, and therefore inflict severe pain on the rest of us. And so law enforcement's challenge is, how do you fight something so simple, something that everyone has access to in the course of people's lives on a daily basis? And it's a very difficult task.
Yeah, now it seems that the weapon of choice is a car just ramming into a crowd, I guess.
That's exactly right.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So something else you study in addition to terrorism and how to fight it is racial profiling, and there is a law recently passed in Texas called Senate Bill 4, the idea of which was to eliminate sanctuary cities and counties and so forth. But a number of Democrats and police chiefs have been saying that part of that law would lead to a lot more racial profiling and selective enforcement. Can you tell us a little bit about this law and how it works and how this could be a problem?
Right. So Senate Bill 4 has received a great deal of national attention because of what it does, right? It allows a law enforcement officer under certain conditions to ask about someone's immigration status. And so what we have been trying, and I've been personally involved in the past 20 years, is in educating police officers on how to do their job, but at the same time how to respect the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Texas among everyone that they encounter. And I think the problem with Senate Bill 4, as stated by police chiefs across the state and other individuals that have a stake on this matter personally, is the fact that it does pose an opportunity for a police officer that may not know any better to simply ask an individual about their immigration status, which has absolutely zero relevance to their criminal act. And so when they detain someone, when they stop someone, and that individual is officially legally detained, the police officer has the ability or the right to ask that question, which could easily be misinterpreted by the individual being asked the question to as whether or not they are in fact being subject of racism.
So is this going to necessitate a lot more training on the part of local police departments?
And we've already started doing that. I'm personally trained all the chiefs of police in the state for the past 15 years and thousands of police officers. And I can tell you that my phone has been ringing off the hook because of the many agencies that are interested in having me go back and re-engage their officers to ensure that they are in fact not engaging or even exploring the possibility of engaging in racism. And I will tell you, we have the best law enforcement here in Texas, but at the same time, those challenges do remain.
All right. Alex Del Carmen, Director of the School of Criminology and Criminal Justice at Tarleton State University in Fort Worth. Thank you for talking with us today.
Thank you.
And you can find him on Twitter at DC Consulting TX.